the most influential person in my life. The person who truly impacted my life the most is my mom. Because when I look at a picture of her, I think of what an intelligent and courageous person my mother is. One reason my mom has had a great impact on my life is her bravery. On April 17th, 1975, the Khmer Rouge took over my village in Cambodia. They destroyed everything in their path. They wanted to persecute all the citizens of the country so that they could gain power. Thousands of innocent civilians were brutally murdered, homes were destroyed, and hundreds of acres of rice fields were burned. People were dying of starvation because of all of the rice fields had been burned, and the rice is the main source of food for our country. The Khmer Rouge hadn't gotten to Mom's side of town yet. As she got notice from screaming neighbors that the soldiers were about to come in, she managed to stay calm and pack food and supplies, which she carried on her back. Because my dad was fighting in the war against the Khmer Rouge, my mom had to protect my sisters all by herself. Although I wasn't born when this happened, I know about this through my mother's stories because she has told me many times, and they have become part of me. Later that night, as the Khmer Rouge were coming into her home, my mother took my sisters into the forest and told them that they were moving to another place. She told them this because she didn't want them to panic and cause disturbances in the woods where someone might find them. My family started running day after day, night after night. They lived in the forest for 3 agonizing years, existing on plants, fruit from trees, and rainwater. They finally reached Battambang, where my father was fighting at the time. I was born in Battambang, and my family lived there until 1979. My mom had made the decision to leave when the Vietnamese invaded our country. Because my father was not allowed to leave Cambodia, my mother became totally responsible for us children again. We had to move on, searching for ways to escape from our country. Again, we were in the forest for 3 days and nights without food and water. Our biggest fear was that we were going to be found and killed by Vietnamese soldiers. My mom got so worried about us being killed that she made plans for my sisters to escape to the new camp on the Thai border. Then my mom and I met them there soon after their arrival. Another reason my mom has had a great impact on my life is her intelligence. She was smart enough to survive in the jungle and clever enough to outsmart a soldier from killing her and her children. The camp that we went to was a Khmer Rouge camp, which had been a battlefield. There were dead bodies scattered all over. We could not drink the water or find any food because of the decomposing bodies. We came upon a soldier who told us that we should go to the other side of the camp to join other people for a big feast. Even though we were very hungry, my mother didn't fall for the soldier's trick. She noticed that the soldier was wearing a red checkered scarf around his neck. He was a Khmer Rouge leader who wanted to lure us to the other side so he could kill us. Fortunately, my mother was able to escape the soldier. She also kept us alive as we moved along. Besides saving our lives in the war, Mother saved my life when we were in the jungle. A couple months after I was born, I nearly died. I had an abscess on my hip, which turned out to be a major infection. That abscess kept growing, eating away my hip joint and almost my whole hip. By the time my mom knew what the problem was, it had gotten worse. Again, she thought she was going to lose me. Fortunately for me, my mom had learned how to make traditional medicine from my dad, who had been a medicine man. She mixed some ingredients together and placed it on my hip. The infection leaked, and she washed it out with holy water. A couple months later, I got better. One of my legs was shorter than the other. However, I couldn't walk because I had no hip joint. After escaping from the new camp, we were transferred to Thailand, to Khao Ai Dang refugee camp, where we stayed for nearly 2.5 years. Then my mom learned that we were allowed to come to the United States. Here we started another journey, but it was a happy one. First, we were taken to the Philippines, where we lived for 6 months before we could come to America. In 1982, we were brought here to the United States. When we arrived, my mother went searching for a doctor who could fix my hip. First we went to Cincinnati, Ohio, then to California, and finally to Rochester, Minnesota. My mother had learned that the doctors at the Mayo Clinic were the best. This was our last hope. I had a hip replacement surgery at St. Mary's Hospital. When I awoke from the anesthesia, the greatest comfort to ease my pain was my mother was by my side, holding my hands through my recovery. My body was stiff like a mummy because I had a body cast from my chest to my toes. During 3 agonizing months of wearing that cast, my mother consoled me and helped me meet my physical and emotional needs. During my hospital stay, my mother was always by my side day and night. She would make homemade soup and all different kinds of food and bring it to me. She was always there to comfort me and to ease my loneliness. As you can see, my mother is a courageous and wonderful woman. This is why my mother has had a great impact on my life. Not only did she save my life and the lives of my 2 sisters, but she brought us all the way from a country that kills its own people to a country where there is freedom so we can start a new life. When I look at a picture of my mother, I finally realized what my mother went through, and I wouldn't trade my mother for anything else in the world.